What's up, boys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be putting the greatest Russian basketball players of all time against the greatest Ukrainian basketball players of all time in NBA 2k22. Assembling these teams wasn't an easy thing to do. I was only able to find a handful of players that have ever been in an NBA 2K from both of these countries. If they existed in the game or had former ratings, I copied those exactly, but if not, I came up with their ratings on my own based on their NBA stats and measurements. And to make things fair, I only made 5 players for each team and filled up the rest of their teams with copies of Jada Pinkett Smith, which I took from the very bottom of the 2001 76ers roster. It's not even August and she's still under a dozen men that aren't named Will Smith. Oh, wow! I created a roster named Russia versus Ukraine and used it in my GM mode. I downloaded the team designs from these two fine gentlemen that go by Nafis Ricks and Baba Booey 797376. I simulated to our first matchup and I'm going to let the computers decide the outcome of this game. I'm sure I'll butcher some of these names, but please let it slide. I'm American. The starters for Russia are 66 overall, Sergey Monya. Next up, we got one of the 2 Russian players I have ever heard of before making this video, Timofey Mozgov. If you never heard of him, I hate to break it to you, but you're a casual. This guy once scored 93 points in one game. A 70 overall with a sweet goatee, Alexei Shved. Not the washed up UFC fighter, but the washed up basketball player, Alexander Volkov. And the one player who is levels above everybody else in this game, Andrei AK-47 Kirilenko. Ukraine is the home team in this matchup. I thought this would be fair since they're getting pretty used to hosting the Russians. Their starters are 70 overall Stanislav Medvedenko, 68 overall Viktor Kryapa, and one of 2 active NBA players from Ukraine, Svitoslav Mikhailuk, another big man in the 6'10", 280-pound Vitaly Potapenko, and sadly the star player from Ukraine, 75 overall Alex Len. The Ukrainian players and fans are ready to play this game like their freedom depends on it. Oh, and look at the realism of this game. The building is on fire. Alex Len wins the tip, and a theme you will pick up on in this video is that these guys aren't very good at basketball. It looks like we're watching a well-funded YMCA game in West Virginia. The first basket of the game comes from Mikhailuk losing his dribble, but he makes up for it by making a great pass that leads to a dunk. They try running this trick play again, but Alex Len is met by the defensive juggernaut Timofey Mozgov, who actually looks a lot more like Ivan Drago. Andrei steals the ball from Ukraine. They have a fast break, but he finds Alexei in the corner for a bomb from deep. If only their missiles were as accurate as their corner 3 game, we'd have a lot less blown up hospitals. The Russians miss, but Mozgov gets the rebound and the putback. Alex Len gets a mismatch in the paint and gets the game back within 1. Russia does not have players on this break, but that does not stop the lowest overall player on the court from making a layup through contact. Ukraine missed an open shot. They get the offensive rebound just to be blocked by Mozgov, who is now on fire. They aren't done being dominated by role players as Russia extends their lead to 5 before the end of the first quarter. Mikhailuk starts the second quarter off with a decent 2-hand dunk off a pick and roll. Andrei is having a bad game so far. The Russians are cold, which would seem like an opening for an attack, but we've all seen how that worked out for the Germans. Mikhailuk gets another dunk. He was looking down on the net on that dunk, which in Eastern European terms is pretty impressive. It took almost 2 minutes for another basket, but Russia responded with a 3-pointer, which ended the first half 12-8 Russia. The leading scores at halftime are Mozgov and Mikhailuk. However, the team stats look like more realistic individual stat sheets. At the beginning of the first half, you get a glimpse of the shit show that I had to cut out of this video. There are Ukrainians on the ground and Russia is surrounding Ukraine's star player. It's looking like a war zone out there. We get a great hustle play here on a tip in, and even the 66 overall Chernobyl survivor is getting a transition dunk on Ukraine. We see the biggest lead of the game after AK-47 pulls off a beauty of a spin move. Ukraine gets their only bucket of the third quarter after a rim grazer dunk, but that does not stop them from celebrating down the court in the face of the Russians. Since this game was getting out of hand, I decided to send in Russia's 58 overall mercenaries and forced them to stay in the game until it becomes interesting. It wasn't pretty, but Ukraine was slowly coming back into the game.
You think you're gonna get away with that shit, bitch?
Ah, real.
Oh, my bad. I didn't see you there. Are you okay, bitch ass nigga? I mean, Jarkich?
Come on.
Oh,
Alex Len started to take over midway through the fourth quarter with his sound fundamental moves in the post. It also didn't hurt that he's a foot taller than the Jada clones. He blocked a shot with 0.8 seconds on the shot clock while Ukraine was down 2. Russia called a timeout and I decided to let the starters come back in the game for Russia. Russia got their own miss, then made sure that everyone touched the ball, but in the end, they couldn't find a good shot. The Ukrainian MJ tied the game at 18 with another mediocre dunk. Ukraine was able to get another stop, which led to a transition dunk and their first lead since the first minute of the game. AK-47 repeatedly fakes out the defense and ties the game at 20. Ukraine takes the lead back after running the only play they have, but Andrei is too long to handle.
Pause.
Ukraine calls a timeout just to see the same pick and roll play we've seen all day, and the game-winning shot goes in and out. It was a slow start to begin overtime, and Ukraine is still going to the pick and roll, but to no avail. Russia, on the other hand, has a 90 overall player with badges, so they take the lead with about a minute and a half to go. Ukraine loses the ball, but we see incredible hustle just for it to still end in a turnover. Ukraine goes on to get another stop and an opportunity to tie the game, but they decide to force up a bad shot with 15 seconds still in the shot clock. They were forced to foul, but this call looks more like a jump ball to me. Mozgov goes on to hit both free throws, bringing Russia's lead up to 4. Ukraine calls a timeout, and they come out with the most unique play I have seen all day, a pick and roll. But this time it actually leads to a shooting foul. Mikhailuk goes on to hit both free throws, and Ukraine is forced to foul again. This is one of the most intimate fouling animations I have ever seen in this game. They cut to a shot of the Ukrainian player breathing down Alexei's neck. I'm not sure what he's holding onto in this replay, but whatever he has in his hands, he's got a good hold of it. Alexei makes 1 of 2 free throws, and Ukraine has another opportunity to tie up the game. They decided to give the game-tying three-pointer to Medvedenko, who has a 25 overall three-point rating, which I think is fair considering that in 6 years in the NBA, he shot 2 for 13 from the three-point line. And I love this foul right here. Alex Len knocks the ball out of Mozgov's hands, looks at the ball, then gives him a bear hug. He had plenty of time to react and grab the ball, just take it and get a layup, bring the game within 1, but nope, Alex is a lover, not a fighter, and he pretty much just sealed the fate of the game. Russia went on to hit 1 of 2 free throws, and that's all they needed to do. It's a 4-point game, and besides, Ukraine decided to miss a long 2-pointer. Russia wins 28-24. Timofey Mozgov was the player of the game with 7 points, 12 rebounds, 3 steals, and 4 blocks. Andrei Kirilenko led the Russians in scoring with 13 points, but on 19 attempts. Alexei Shved had 4 points on 1 for 10 shooting, and the John Brown of the game had 1 rebound on 0 field goals in 3 minutes. Mikhailuk led the Ukrainians with 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. Kiryapa had 8 points and 5 rebounds, and Alex Len had 6 and 11. The other 2 Ukrainians were just running around for the most part. They combined for 0 points, 15 rebounds, and shot 0 for 16 from the field. Russia went 2 for 17 from the 3-point line, but Ukrainian matched that by going 0 for 17. Russia also led in steals and blocks, but Ukraine is going to leave with some style points as they had 7 dunks compared to Russia's 1. Pretty low scoring game, but the Russians came out victorious and avoided being sentenced to hard labor camps. Sorry everyone, but it looks like we'll have to keep relying off online petitions and Instagram story posts to stop Russia. Chris Rock can take a punch. For a great low rate you can get online, go to the General and save some time. And if you can't afford to put gas in your car, just put it in your horse. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.